the Iranian assault on Israel, which now seems inevitable. Well, the US has warned of Iran's retaliation to the Israeli attack in Damascus. Now, remember, there was an attack that took place in Damascus where an Iranian embassy was attacked allegedly by Israel. Now, what the US says is that Iran could target Israeli embassies in retaliation. In fact, Iran is reportedly preparing to avenge the killing of its military officers. In fact, a top general was also killed in that attack. Now, reports suggest that the Iranian attack could be a combination of missiles and drones. This is the US now has rushed additional military troops to protect Israel and, American nationals there as well. But the fact of the matter is that now an Iranian assault on Israel seems to be in the offing. In fact, that could happen sooner rather than later, as President Biden has also said. But let's take a look at the timeline of the conflict, because this is a conflict that has been in the making. Now, the hostilities grew amid Israel's growing ties with non-Arab states, including the West, in the 1970s. In fact, Iran named Israel the Little Satan and US the Big Satan in its policy against world powers. What's also important here is that the conflict turned violent post Iran's funding to various, militia in Iraq as well as Syria. And Iran has also accused Israel of sabotaging its nuclear program. In fact, Iran's support to Hamas, Hezbollah and the Houthis has irked Israel as well. In fact, Iran-backed Houthis and Hamas have attacked Israel since October the 7th as well, when the Gaza war first broke out, that Hamas attack that we all remember, that fateful day. In fact, Israel, in retaliation, has carried out airstrikes in Syria as well to halt the flow of weapons as well. But it's not just the US, but it's India as well, which is on alert. The Indian government has asked citizens not to travel to Iran or Israel. In fact, the government says it has stepped up its outreach to Indians in Iran and Israel as well. Europe-bound Air India flights, meanwhile, are circumventing the Middle East route. Vistara has told NDTV as well that it's reworking its flight paths to Europe amid tension. So, certainly, the Middle Eastern airspace is not safe anymore amid fears of another war. But the latest that we're getting is that a cargo ship has been seized by Iran. And what's absolutely unfortunate and concerning is that 17 Indian nationals were on board the seized ship as per sources. Now, Iran seized this ship just a couple of hours back, and sources say that India is in touch with Iranian authorities because 17 Indians were on board this cargo ship. Sources also say that efforts are on for the early release of the Indian nationals. But the larger question that we ask on Left, Right and Centre tonight: are we ready for another war? As another front now opens in the Gaza war, is a wider regional war now inevitable? Joining me on Left, Right and Centre tonight, I'm being joined by Dinkar Prakash Srivastava, who is a former ambassador to Iran. Also with me, Dr. Kinviraj Jangid, who is currently an associate professor at the O.P. Jindal Global University and also a visiting faculty at an Israel university. Kamer Aga, a Middle East expert, is also with us. Going across to you first, Ambassador Prakash, how do you see the developments in West Asia? US says that now an Iranian assault on Israel is inevitable. Are we ready for another front in the Gaza war? I mean, lakhs have been killed in Gaza. The world economy has been crippled. You have global powers who are now going through an economic slowdown as well. What could this mean, a potential Iranian attack on Israel?
If you look at the immediate background, the present chain of events starts with 1st April attack by Israel on Iranian consulate in Damascus. This was a violation of Syrian sovereignty, and this was a breach of Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Immunities. Iranian authorities have exercised restraint so far, and this was Gaza war is about 6 months old. And right at the beginning, US Secretary of State, US Defense Secretary, and President Biden himself had said that Iran did not have any immediate knowledge or hand in the events of 7th October. What has held peace so far and stopped escalation of a local conflict into a regional conflagration was the restraint exercised by three major powers: United States, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. Now, let me illustrate this point. What has kept the oil prices stable so far, though they have started rising, is an understanding between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Now, if with the Israeli attack on the Iranian consulate, the situation has changed, because for the first time, this carries the risk of a direct clash between the major powers involved. I would not like to jump to the conclusion, and let's hope that all sides exercise restraint.
You know, what we have seen on the ground, I mean, blacks have been killed in Gaza, and we need perhaps stronger intervention from global powers as well. Kamar Aga, come in on this point. Is this a failure of diplomacy and a complete breakdown of any sort of understanding between the Middle East and the Western nations, and between the Middle East and, say the global powers, including the US and various other countries? Because in the UN as well, we have seen the US sort of veto resolutions multiple times. Do you see this as a failure of diplomacy, the fact that now Middle East is on the brink?
Yes, it is not only the failure of diplomacy, but, many countries have accused United States as a complicit in this war, because it's the US, which is vetoing the UN ceasefire resolutions, and secondly, it's the US which is supplying weapons along with Germany and some other Western nations, and that they call it ironclad security for the state of Israel, and they have not taken any serious effort to call for a ceasefire or to bring some sort of semblance of peace in Gaza. That is continuing, and now new chapter has also emerged. As Ambassador has mentioned, on April 1st, when Iranian consulate was attacked. Iran. It's for a very long time, Israelis are saying that Iranians are building nuclear weapon, and they said that it has to be neutralized. The only way is to deal with Iran is to bomb this nuclear installation. They said that because they believe that poses threat to Israel. So that is the line which is going on for quite some time. It's not a new thing. And now it thinks, Israel is pushing a greater war for two reasons. One is Iran. They believe that Iran is supporting arc of resistance, which Iran calls, the Houthi rebels or Shia militia in Iraq or Hezbollah and some other groups based in Syria.
Right.
So they want, both these arc of resistance as well as Iran should be contained. And that's the only way to contain is war, because Americans have failed in by imposing the sanctions or containment of Iran. Now the only thing is regime change. And Israel has a support of these big powers, but we don't know, how long this will continue or how long it will go up.
And Dr. Jangid, come in on this point as well, because while we may look at the immediate trigger, which was the Damascus attack, but this has been a conflict in the making. Both Israel and Iran have been sort of skeptical of each other. There has been this growing cynicism, as Mr. Aga also pointed out, that Iran's support to the Houthis, to Hezbollah, to the Hamas, that has been something that has irked Israel for a long time. So how do we sort of bring them on a negotiating table? Is that even a possibility anymore?
Vedant, it's not a possibility, because Iran, in a very reckless manner, uses this opportunity for the last 6 months to do something that we call in IR brinkmanship, pushing things to the edge, giving a complete sense of ownership in a way that it forces the other to react. When we talk about the attack on the Iranian consulate in Damascus, I think important point for the last 6 months that the Israelis have gone through is that because of the Hezbollah and Hezbollah's constant rockets and the shelling, close to a lakh of the Israelis are evacuated from the north of Israel. So imagine for the 6 months, these people are scattered in their family, friends, other places than their own homes. So I think Israel has been facing this terrible situation at the north border. And the attack in Damascus was a signal that Israel wants a retreat from Iran.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Iranian attack on Israel goes back to what you just said, little Satan. It's completely in the direction of anti-Americanism. I want to share with you that on 3rd of this month, on April, Palestinian Authority in West Bank made and released a statement that they do not want Iran to spread the chaos in West Bank. They do not want Iran to meddle in the Palestinian affairs. Why would Palestinian Authority and the West Bank say such a thing against Iran? Because Palestinian Authority realizes that Hamas has been funded and financed by Iran with an ideological input, which is the Shia school of thought. And that harms the Palestinian unity and the authority.
So perhaps there are many fault lines that running through this conflict.
Of the Iranian interventions here.
Absolutely. And there are many fault lines running through the conflict, as you said. But Ambassador Srivastav, looking at India's diplomatic strategy through this, the Prime Minister has said that this is not an era of war. You have your External Affairs Minister Jay Shankar also talking about how Palestinians have been denied their homeland. How do you see India's diplomatic strategy going forward now that another front could possibly open in the Gaza war?
I think India has maintained its historical support to Palestinian cause. India has also cautioned restraint to both sides. But this is an issue where I think the regional powers have the primary responsibility for ensuring that the matter is resolved. And the regional powers are Egypt, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
And I think all three of them are making efforts to contain this conflict.